All right, hello everyone. Welcome to today's event hosted by republicEn. We're very excited to have a chat today about climate change with our very special guest, Jeff Bridges. My name is Wen Lee. I am the engagement director at republicen.org. I just want to make sure everyone can see or hear me. I think that it's all going through all right. So we are going to do a quick introduction, and then republicEn's executive director, Bob Inglis, will lead a chat with Jeff Bridges. And after that, we'll open it up to the audience for some Q&A. So that should be really fun. But before we dive in, I just want to point out that on the Zoom platform, you probably are very familiar with Zoom by now because of these extraordinary times that we are in with COVID-19. But you can control how many people you see on the screen. I think by default, Zoom will have lots of faces on the screen next to the slides. But you can hover over the top left of that box and reduce it down so you only see one person instead of 4 people. So that way it doesn't cover up so much of the screen. So I do recommend that you change the settings on your computer so that you can see the speaker and see a lot of the slides. All right, well, before we dive in, this might be the first time many of you have heard of republicEn, so I just want to tell you a little bit about us very briefly. So, are you conservative and concerned about climate change? You are definitely not alone. republicen.org is the place for you. We are conservatives talking to conservatives about climate change and how we can solve it. We call our movement the EcoRight. Our community is made up of thousands of people all across the country. Most of us are conservative, but we also have libertarians and independent voters. What we all have in common is we see climate change as a serious threat that needs to be addressed. We want to leverage the power of free enterprise to help get us there. And we believe that conservative leadership in this country is key if we're going to solve climate change. I hope after today's event, you'll learn more about republicEn and get involved with our community. Okay, so just a little bit more housekeeping before we dive in. We have an interactive Q&A session coming up after the chat with Bob Inglis. And so if you want to submit a question to Jeff Bridges, the way you do that is through the chat. So my colleague, Price Atkinson, is actually going to type into the chat right now. And when he does that, you should see something pop up on the bottom of your screen. And if you click or tap on that, it will open up the chat box. Now, if you want to submit a question, please choose to chat to submit a question. Don't chat your questions to me, as I may not see it. So be sure it's going to submit a question. And what Price is going to do is he's going to collect all the questions that come in through the chat, and he's going to put them in the queue, and we're going to get through as many of them as we can during the Q&A. So please go ahead and submit questions anytime during the event. You can ask Jeff questions about the environment or his career or whatever you'd like. Okay, so that's enough of the housekeeping. Let's get on with the show. We're all very excited about our special guest, Jeff Bridges. So he is a talented actor, artist, and producer. We're incredibly honored to have him here with us today. Jeff's acting career spans nearly 5 decades. He's been in over 70 films, 70 with a 0, and he's won multiple awards, including the Academy Award for Best Actor, which was for Crazy Heart. In addition to his illustrious film and music and art career, Jeff is also an environmentalist. In 2018, he produced and narrated Living in the Future's Past. This is a documentary that explores the environmental challenges faced by our planet. And as it turns out, former Congressman and republicEn's very own executive director, Bob Inglis, is also in this film.
Living in the Future's Past, a film produced by Jeff Bridges and done with Susan Casera, who's on with us here today. And Jeff, it is wonderful to be with you. You know, I had an opportunity to be with you a couple hours on a Zoom call recently. got to know you some there. I've watched some interviews with you, particularly an interview where you talked about your dad and how the famous actor Lloyd Bridges sort of lit up the set and made everybody have fun doing
Yeah,
the work that you do.
yeah.
And so it occurs to me that you really are sort of a fun and joyful fella who has a real joie de vivre. And so why spend time on a dour subject? Some people see climate as a very dour subject.
Well, there's a relationship with joy and love. When you're in love, you're pretty joyous. And I'm in love with our planet, man, and all the creatures on it. And so that is a natural invitation for me. Hey, well, come on, here's something you can do to your love, express your feeling joy. But it has been kind of a challenge for me, because when I first got into getting involved in things like climate change and world hunger and these sorts of things, I thought, oh man, I want to participate, but I know if I start opening my heart, being an entertainer in the entertainment business, having a certain degree of fame, I'm going to be asked to do things, man. People are going to say, oh, there's a guy with an open heart. Let's ask him to do our thing. Come on, And there are all these good ideas. Oh, how am I going to do this? Or do I just say, well, it's too tough, I'm not going to do it. I couldn't live with that. So I said, well, I'm going to give myself a caveat. I will go towards the light, go towards love and opening my heart up. But I know there will be times when I'll be asked to do something that I'm not willing to do. And this caveat was that I'll give myself permission to just say, I get the light, I'm heading that direction, but it's a little too bright. I'm just going to take a beat here, guys, okay? Because I didn't want to turn myself off of the process of being involved and being engaged. And then along with that caveat, I learned something very interesting. I would get these asks, and every once in a while there would be one that said, well, that's kind of a toughie, but all right, I'll do it. Okay. I'll done the semi-tough one. And man, I got high off it. I said, wow, I stretched, man. I feel terrific out of that. And of course, that inspires me to take the next little leap, the next one. And I find that now, the more I'm involved and the more I stretch myself, the more thrilled and full of joy and love I am. So that's kind of the natural progression. But still, sometimes it's just too much, and you gotta take a break. But head in that direction. That's my direction to myself.
Wow. And so, and it's interesting, Jeff, you just use the word love over and over. And in the film, this great film, Susan Casera and you, I guess, arranged that pause at the end of your question where you said, we love our children, right? And then there was a long pregnant pause.
Yeah, well.
I wonder, why'd you phrase that as a question, right?
Well, it's some of our behavior doesn't display that. The way we treat our kids, the way we treat our we're handing the planet off to them, man. And the planet, from my perspective, isn't in very good shape. And I'm doing everything we can and getting in cahoots with guys like you and everybody. We need everybody who is willing to get involved and create the best world we can for our descendants.
And I got interesting about the descendants because your parents were married over 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
You and your wife, according to Wiki, were married in 1977.
Yeah.
You've got 3 children and a grandchild. This is very unusual in Hollywood, is it not? I mean, are you? Maybe it's our impression from outside of Hollywood, but you are pretty amazing in that devotion within your family to to your wife, your parents' devotion to each other.
Yeah, well,
What's behind that?
you know, the love thing, man. Come on, you know, it's funny, you know, these challenges that we face, not only, you know, with the world and stuff, but in our personal relationships, those challenges, those are the keys to the treasure chest, man. They're that's where the lessons and the real goal, the gold is, you know, and if you can meet those challenges in your marriage and in your other relationships with the world and with other people, I think that can really behoove you in the whole situation and make marriage last. You know, I love this. I had this thought about, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could all marry the world, you know, and treat the world the way we treat our loved, you know, our most loved person, our wives, you know, or husbands. And we have bumps, you know. Something I wanted to talk to you about, and I think we've talked to each other about this before. I use this in my marriage, and I use this all the time. And it's Bernie Glassman, who he's no longer with us, but he was the head of an organization called the Zen Peacemakers. And he would go to the trouble spots, the spots where nobody wants to go. He would go to Auschwitz for a week and join the relatives of the prisoners and the relatives of the guards and be together and bear witness to what went down, what's happened, you know. Nobody wants to do that, you know, and look, with the climate change, it's the same thing. He'd go to Rwanda with the Hutus and Tutsis and do that same kind of bearing witness retreat. And he had 3 tenets. The first one was not knowing. And that's not ignorance. That's just letting go of what you think you know, what you're so damn certain of. You know, just put that in the opinion section. And it's tough, man, because they come up. We're so certain about certain things. Anyway, letting go of what we think we know. And then the next one is bearing witness. Being in that uncomfortable place and just bearing what all these different opinions are. And just sit with that. I love the expression. It's like opening all of your, 80,000 pores and listening with 80,000 pores open. Letting it really impress you. And out of those 2 tenets comes compassionate action. What's the proper, I wrote something down here that I wanted to read. We all have this impulse to fix things, to rescue, to control, but to truly know what serves the moment, we have to be in the present, And then when we're in the present, hearing all this, we can become powerful allies, man. I mean, I feel I'm your partner, we're allies in this thing, and I think that's what needs to do, and that's what needs to happen to carry out what we're up to, right, Bob?
Yeah.
Getting together, man.
Yeah, and that's so interesting because we're, at republicen.org, Jeff, we're after conservatives, right? And we, as you know from the film that Susan got me saying, by the way, without my glasses on, my glasses were glaring, and so nobody recognized me without my glasses. I felt sort of like a movie star without them.
Oh yeah, go either way, man. You're cool either way. I'll take you.
Anyway, but when she got me without the glasses and I felt like a movie star, I was admitting to having spent some time in the denier camp.
Yeah.
And so we're after folks that might have spent some time in there. And, you've played some characters that had a change developed over the course of the film. I mean, what do you think that's like here? I mean, that's what we're asking people to do, right? We're asking them to go from maybe not being aware to loving their place, like you were just talking about, to actually being in love with this creation and serving it, and even being co-creators with God, really is what we're talking about. And so and he gives us that dignity. And so the question is, you know, as you've played those roles and you've seen in your own life when people grow into another place, how does that happen? I mean, how do we get it to happen so that particularly people like me who spent some time denying this can come around?
Oh man, let's see. Where do I begin with that? Well, showing up, you know, it's that desire to engage. You know, something comes to mind about passion. You know, often you hear about, you know, young kids, but they're not any age. You know, gee, I'm not passionate enough about it, man. You know, you guys will figure that out. You know, and there's so much in society that will deter you. You know, like this Michael Moore film, man. Wow, that changes. That's like you're pouring this chemical into the cauldron, and all of a sudden the whole thing changes. You got this left guy coming out saying all the green stuff is, you know, all no good, and now he's a champion of the right. I mean, it's so crazy. And in a way, I applaud him for, you know, bringing some insight to the thing. It frightens me because I think everybody's going to throw up their hands now and say, oh well, they're screwed up, it's all screwed up. Just let, you know, something, you know, it's going to figure itself out. I'm not going to get involved with that because whatever side I'm on could turn out to be the wrong side. You know, that's what I'm afraid of, the reaction of that film. I'm hoping we can have a conversation with Michael Moore like this to discuss this stuff and find out, you know, what was your intention and where do you want to go with this thing? But I made that as an example for what your question. Oh, about how do people get involved? So I was just saying the Michael Moore bit about, I understand the challenge of that. But, you know, I heard something recently that made sense about love. You know, we talk about how powerful love is. But that's not where it starts. This was this guy's opinion that I happened to dig. He says it starts with beauty. Look how beautiful, man. Look how beautiful to be alive, you know, to be on this planet, you know, and let that draw you, just like you're in love with your wife, or it draws you to caring, you know. And just like I was talking about the 3 tenets, you know, and I was saying I use that with my marriage as well. You know, Sue and I, we'll hit a bump, man, a tough bump, and we'll say, okay, well, let's sit. And we'll just sit opposite each other. And whoever wants to go first can go first. And their task is just to express all of their feelings. And the other person is to just receive that and do your best not to make your list of your rebuttal, you know, because that's the tendency we have. Just get it and let all of that come out. And when that person is done, the next person does their whole thing. And you go back and forth like that. Sometimes, you know, you don't achieve forgiveness or total, you know, love and beauty, but there's been movement that's kind of mysterious. You don't know really what it is, you know. But
yeah,
I think that's what people can do, to just have the courage and bravery. It has something to do with it because we love our comfort. We love being happy, and we avoid. It's a natural tendency to avoid challenges, or at least it is for me. I certainly have a lazy streak, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah, you know, that's really actually quite similar to what we want to do at republicEn.org, is actually go to them and sit with them. You know, in other words, do what you're just describing. Hear out what the concern is, and then see if we can inspire with some beauty and love and reaction to the planet. You know, and then to really rise to this incredible challenge.
There's a wonderful company called Petro. Do you know about them?
No.
This is a company started by Katie Menard, who lost her home in the Harvey hurricane, had no insurance. She was in the oil business all her life. Oh, I got one of these things. How do I lose that? Decline. She was in the oil business most of her life. Her father was in it. And she's all about bringing women into the oil industry because there aren't that many women engineers specifically to come up with some new ideas. And she also wants to invite oil companies to get together and be concerned, as you are and I am, with this climate crisis, because the oil companies have a tremendous role in this. We need their energy so much, you know, but we need it not to be capricious with it. We need to use it to create this new form of energy that we're going to need. And so that was just an example, I think, of, you know, we so often make the oil guys, they're the bad guys. You know, that's not true, man. We all have the same basic instincts of wanting to be happy and taking care of each other and, you know, all of that. And so that organization, Pink Petro, I think is something that you might want to check out and have her on your show. I think she'd be a great guest.
Yeah, that's great to know. You know, I should mention, Susan Casera was telling me that there's a 60-page study guide that goes along with the film that is pretty exciting. What is it? Kappa Delta Pi of a UN community of teachers, 1.2 million educators around the world is using the film and the 60-page study guide. So people should be aware that the film's available plus the study guide's available, and that's really neat. We're going to go to some questions here from the audience, and unless maybe when might be able to quickly have, in addition to being an actor, Jeff is a musician and a photographer, and he's taken pictures, right, Jeff, throughout your career on set and such, and he shared some of those pictures with us. While you're getting your questions ready, maybe we can quickly tag through some of those photos so that Jeff can describe them for us.
Now, so I got to tell you a little bit about this camera first. Now, this is called a wide lux, and it's a panning still camera. I first came in contact with it in high school when there was a rumor going around that there was a guy going to take our class picture with this panning camera, and if you ran around real quick, you could be in it twice. I thought, oh, that's crazy, but it turned out to be true. And so as a present, my wife gave me a wedding present. My wife gave me a wide lux camera, and that's the only camera I use. But these are some samples of that camera. Now this one, you can see what's interesting about it is I can hand hold it 15th of a second, which is tough for a traditional camera, and you get that pan, so you get movement when people are moving. That's what that first shot is.
Wow. Interesting.
And that's from a movie. That was from a movie called Amateurs, by the way, which is not too many people have seen that, but it's one of my favorite movies. You might check that out. Oh, and now this one. Well, this is from Lebowski. Julianne Moore, she's there, and this is a rehearsal from the dream scene. I like on the left, you see some of the dancers taking 5 there. They're lying on the ground. And that was a wonderful experience. I look at these photographs and they're like still home movies. It takes me right back to that situation. And there's the great Robin. Oh man, he would often, when the troops were down, this is from Fisher King. I can remember us working late, we were working, 18-hour days. And this is like about 4 o'clock in the morning, everybody's dragging. And all of a sudden, Robin plants his feet and starts going around busting everybody's chops on the crew. It goes on and on and on, and doing a routine, And Terry Gilliam, our director, most directors would say, okay, Robin, let's get back to work. But Terry would egg him on. He would say, go, Robin, more. What about this guy? And talk about joy, man. Everybody's spirits were lifted and said, oh yeah, we're alive, we're having fun, we're all together, yeehaw, let's go to the next task here, you know. But he was such a wonderful guy, man. And there he is. This is from a scene, the shooting where he was in a straitjacket, and to see him struggle like that was quite amazing. I remember one of the things he told me, he says, you know, I used to be a wrestler. I said, really? He says, yeah. He says, I never lost a match. Strong cat, man. So you can imagine him here fighting against himself in a straitjacket, which is, as I say it, it's something that we all do. We're all kind of fighting with ourselves, I guess. I guess that's who the real other guy is he's inside ourselves.
Yeah. These are great. And Jeff, you have a book, right? Where you have
I have two books. Just put out the latest volume of pictures, which you know, is my more recent movies, and then the volume 1 is for early pictures. Goes back to Starman. That's where it kind of all started. Karen Allen had that idea. Why don't we make little books for the crews, you know, and you can see them on my website there, you know, I you know, show some of those little books.
Great.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing those with us. They're really, really
Oh,
beautiful.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, well, Bob, is this a good time to start getting some questions from the audience?
Please.
Okay, let's see. Let's see, we'll start with this fun question here from John. He asks, who would win a climate debate between you and Leonardo DiCaprio?
See, I don't know. You know, I haven't really met with Leo about this stuff. I saw, but he's got, God, he's done some really terrific work. I saw one recently that was, you know, specifically geared in for, you know, the younger guys. And wow, I really was impressed by it. Yeah, he's doing some terrific work.
All right, let's see. Andrew wants to know, how has Hollywood embraced environmental challenges and adapted to set a positive example for other industries? What do you think film and television leaders could do to improve current practices environmentally?
Well, you know, plastic, single-use plastic is a big thing that I'm hoping that we can put an end to. I think that the invention of those water bottles, man, that really backfired on us. They're not biodegradable. They just get smaller and smaller particles, and our fish eat them, and we eat the fish. It's just, I don't think it's a good idea. That's just my opinion. So I'm thinking the movie industry could make sure that they handle that. They don't hand out those plastic bottles so freely. And I'm thinking there should be even a water monitor, you know, somebody who's, you know, in charge of that, making sure everybody's hydrated. You know, that's possible. Whenever I'm making a movie, I've talked to the producers about that. And I was happy to know this last movie I'm still involved in. It got shut down with the pandemic, but it's called The Old Man. When I went there and pitched this idea about, let's do something about the water, they said, oh, we're way ahead of you, man. It already happening, you know. So it's catching on, you know, and things take time. But and then also, you know, make movies like Living in the Future's Past, you know, something that gives it another angle. You know, when Susan Kuchera approached me, we both wanted to do a film about climate change, but we didn't want to repeat what is already done. You know, we didn't want to be pointing fingers at the oil company and the doomsday aspects of it. So we wanted to come up with something new. Our idea was, why are we behaving this way when we're getting all this other information, you know, from our scientists? So, you know, more movies that have different angles on what's happening. I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah, and Jeff, you know, while Wen's getting that next question up, I just got to say that what Susan Kuchera and you got such incredible visuals of the beauty of the planet.
Yeah, well, that's Susan. That's not, none of those are stock footages, Bob. Those are all Susan going out there and shooting that stuff. Isn't it gorgeous?
it's really,
Oh
it is
man,
that
yeah.
beauty thing. That's so interesting. You said that love starts with beauty. You know, it's just, it's really interesting that it's just really remarkable. The footage in the film is pretty amazing. I'm doing a commercial for the film here.
Yeah,
You
good
know.
man, good man. I'm so, you being involved in it, that, I got to say, that's my favorite part.
Oh, well,
Really,
thank
because
you.
it's so wonderful. And this idea of getting together, getting all of these minds, um, as a guy who leans to the left, man, I'm digging the guys who are leaning to the right. We need each other,
Yeah.
right hand,
Well,
left hand. It makes more sense to join forces,
well, maybe if you could go on about that, and tell some of your Hollywood friends, maybe I have a future in Hollywood, or something. You said it was the best part of the film. Does that
Oh,
mean
you got it,
does that
man.
mean I
Well,
got a
now,
future in Hollywood?
you got to be careful what you're wishing, Bob, because I'm going to get you up there, man. You think I'm kidding? You think I'm kidding?
I'm not sure I could do it. I'm not sure I could.
I don't know.
Amazing
Well,
things where you act
it'll
like.
be one of those challenges, and we'll have to sit opposite each other, and I'll hear everything you have to say, and then I'll and we'll figure it out.
Well, Bob, that'll be your next career, Bob. After we solve climate change, you can be a Hollywood star.
There you go.
All right, let's see. Let's get on another question.
I would love to see, and I'd love to encourage you guys to make a film from the on climate change from the conservative perspective. I think that would, and I think in a way it's kind of already happening. I know Susan Kuchera is she's making more and more films. I think were you in the one with General Clark that she's working on now? I'm not sure.
The only one I know about with General Clark, which was really great when we were on the phone with him the other day, is this one, Living in the Future's
Oh yeah,
Past.
well she's making more. So I think it would be great to get that perspective.
I'll get her in touch with my agent.
Yeah, man.
Just
yeah.
No, Wen, what other questions you got there?
Okay, let's see. And I think that's a great idea. I would love to have a film about climate change from the conservative perspective. So I'm with you, Jeff. Yeah. Let's see, Grant, he asks, what is one thing everyone could do right now in our daily lives to abide and start down the path of positive change? What do you think?
Well, I remember, this is kind of a roundabout thing. I hope I can remember the question when I get to the end of my roundaboutness, but I was sitting next to dinner, sitting between Bernie Glassman, my Zen master friend, and Ram Dass, another spiritual master. And Bernie leans over to me and says, you realize that the Big Lebowski is just filled with Zen koans. I said, what are you talking about? He says, well, look who wrote it and directed it, the Koan brothers, And you know what a koan is? It's that Zen kind of question that doesn't have a real, solid answer, but it just is there to get you thinking. And he says, oh yeah, the movie is filled with modern day koans. But he says, let's write a book about that. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, the dude abides. I mean, that's very Buddhistic right there. I said, what's another koan? He says, well, that's just like your opinion, man. Huge koan, these different things. So I said, well, what does this abide? Talk about that a little bit, Bert. And he says, well, in the, I don't know what sutra, it might be the Diamond Sutra, or I'm not sure which one, but he says, to abide in the land of non-abiding, which means, this gets back to your question, but you can help me kind of get back into it. But where you abide is in this land of, you realize it's changed. Nothing remains the same. Everything's open. There's space, man. That goes for solving problems too. You think, oh, I can't, there's no way around it. There's space around everything. Everything is workable, but you abide in non-abiding. Don't get so locked in that you can't be free and dance with God and love and stuff. I don't know. Does that answer it? That's kind of a roundabout thing.
Oh, it was great. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. Okay, Greg asks, so we're just discussing the power of music and song. Have you given some thought to writing a song that expresses some of the perspectives you're sharing about the environment?
I haven't done one specifically. I've got a song that's coming out soon. Maybe I'll send it to you guys. I think you might dig it. It's called Welcome Mat. And it's it's got some irony going on it with these times when, your welcome mat's like, come on over to our house, but of course we can't do that right now. But it's basically opening our arms to, come on, we're all in this together. Let's all get into the same house here. That's, one of the, the future, we don't know what's going to happen with this virus thing, with the pandemic. It's kind of up for grabs, but a gift that this pandemic has given us is the realization that we are one human community, man. What one person does affects the other, That's a wonderful lesson that we can, jam on and take it to other challenges like climate change that we're.
Yeah, and facing. Jeff, are you still on the road with the band? Do you go out and play? Or?
But not at the moment. But one of the things I can say now, I'm working with a wonderful guitar company, making guitars out of sustainable wood. And that's just sort of the tip of the iceberg. We want to, inspire flooring companies and furniture companies to think about where you're getting your wood, and also consumers to ask, where does that wood come from?
Yeah, that's neat. And particularly, if you can make that Welcome Mat song, you had some time where you were spending some time in country music.
Yeah.
That particularly if we could do this in Nashville, so that it has a conservative connection, it would be pretty cool.
All right. I'll get it to you.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Wonderful.
Okay, let's see. The next question, Anne. She says, you have such appeal across polarized political spectrums. What are your thoughts on science denial? This notion that science is untrustworthy or something we can choose whether or not to believe.
Oh man, I certainly struggle with denial. I can understand that in the other guy. So it's not something I say, come on guys, snap with it. You can't do it that way. One of the things that was fascinating to me in the film, it talks about emergent behavior. And that can be seen in the schools of fish or flocks of birds. They move in a certain shape, but there's no leader. How do they know how to do that? That happens all throughout nature, this emergence. And that's kind of what's happening with us, I think. Nobody really knows, what the answers to these big questions are. But to be involved and to let each other affect each other, the natural flow will come out. I hesitate to say it, but what God wants, just if we can just connect with each other, love each other, love the planet, this natural emergence will emerge.
Yeah, and I was just searching my notes I was listening to an interview you had where there's a term that you used, and I can't remember what it is, where it's basically a whole community acts as one organism, actually. I can't remember what the term is. It's a
superorganism.
Yes, superorganism. Yeah,
a superorganism. I mean, one people, you could be like a kind of a bad B science fiction movie. That there's this superorganism is taking over the planet and it's eating the planet and it's destroying it. All of that. Yeah.
Hey, you were moving a little bit like Starman just then.
That was, speaking of Starman. One of my favorite lines I've ever said in a film was one of the things he said. He said, what I love about you human beings the most is that when times are the worst, you are at your best. And that moved me. I said, oh yeah, thanks for that. That's really wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe that's us in climate. Interesting.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm thinking. You know, we can do this stuff. We're built for realizing our dreams and innovation and all those. That's in our DNA. You know? We're good at that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Ed asks if you can recall the moment you first realized how serious climate change is. And a second part is, what advice do you give about touching people's hearts rather than their minds, so they truly feel the need to rise to the challenge of the climate crisis?
Well, I think realizing it sort of comes in stages. I'm trying to think of the earliest. Well, you know, I remember being with my dad, Lloyd Bridges, when he was doing sea hunt, you know, back in the late 50s, early 60s. And he was already concerned back then about the ocean and, you know, how we were polluting the ocean. But when you ask that question, the first thing that popped into my mind was it about 3 years ago now? What was that big fire in Santa Barbara? 2 or 3 years ago? I can't remember. And we had just sold our house because we were right up by the fire range. And we dodged that bullet. That house burned down in the fire. And we thought, well, we'll move down, you know, where it's safer. And what we didn't realize, the fire didn't get us, but the fire burned all the brush and trees. And here comes the debris flow. Wiped us out, man. You know, boulders the size of refrigerators flying through our house, mud, you know, 4 feet thick in our house. We were rescued by, you know, helicopter. You know, that was the last time we spent any time in that house. You know, we're out of that house. But that put climate change. You know, that hit me right.
And that was your painting the SOS on the sheet.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, to get the helicopter, the guys came to, so we weren't sure if it was SOS or 805 area code. So I said, I'm glad you picked this up, man. Gee.
That's pretty amazing that you painted it on the sheet and put it out there. It's,
oh gosh.
That's amazing.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But there's nothing like personal, you know, when you get hit like that, you know, then you take things a little more seriously when it affects you personally for some reason.
That's why we find a ready audience in places like Florida and the Carolinas as the water is coming up, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard to deny.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Here's a question that's not climate related. From Dadyar. I apologize if I say your name wrong, but he says, hello, Mr. Bridges. I just wanted to thank you for taking time out of your day and doing this. I'm wondering if you ever get anxious or stressed out before movie sets this late in your career, since you've been in the field for so long. Do you still get nervous or stressed out?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I'm quite, you know, it's funny. I have this easygoing persona kind of, you know, but I'm an anxious cat, man. Let me tell you. It's funny you say, oh, you know, the dude was so cool and laid back. I say, have you watched the movie? He's always upset. His coolness is always being challenged, and he often fails, man. You know. But no, I'm anxious as the next guy, and fear. I mean, I was anxious for our this talk. You know, because especially when when I care about something, I want to pull it off. I get anxious, man, and you know, it's become a friend of mine. You know, I said, oh, here's my fear. Okay, guy, you know, come on, you know, let me see, get to know you. Oh yeah, okay. Oh yeah, I remember. I can remember doing a movie, you know, years ago, 50 years ago, 40, 45 years, called The Iceman Cometh, you know. I was doing most of my scenes with Robert Ryan, a wonderful actor. Who was, you know, by the time he was about probably my age, 70 then or so. And there were long takes, you know, 10-minute takes and stuff. And we were sitting at a table preparing for the scene. And he had his hands on the table, desk like that. We say, okay, ready, action. Oh no, we've got to stop. We've got to fix that light. And he put his hands in his lap, and I see these big 2 puddles of sweat on the desk. And I say, Bob, after all these years, you're still frightened. You're still nervous. He goes, oh yeah, I'd really be frightened if I wasn't frightened. If I wasn't nervous, it would mean something was wrong. That's just that's my old buddy, you know. But yeah, I get frightened. I get so anxious because you want to pull it off, you know. You want to pull it off.
It's amazing how much goes into it. You know, I got a friend, Greg Cordell, on this call with us. When I was running for Congress again, after 6 years in, 6 years out, and I was running for Congress again, I was going back to the law office to work on a lease. And I said, you know, Greg, when I go back to the office and work on that lease, I can basically take a form I used in the last transaction and one from the one before that. And the client really doesn't care much what it looks like. But I said, in your business, you got to hit a home run every time you present something to a client in the creative business. And I think that's the way it must be in the movie business, is you've got to nail the part. And so the intensity of acting it and making it so that it's believable, you know, then Starman moving like that, you know, is believable. It's an incredible amount of energy.
It's so interesting. It kind of ties to what we were talking about, because there's a certain amount of preparation. You know, you're working on the way the guy walks, and you know, you're looking at the past with whatever character you're playing, and then you show up, and then you might the first take, you go, wow, that was great, man. That felt very real. Okay, but there was a hair in the gate. We got to do it over. Oh, you got to do it again. Oh, okay. I'm going to try to do it like that. And then you do it and you say, shit, that's not it, man. And so finally the lesson is learned that where that initial take came out of, and what you love so much, that came from emptiness of not knowing. It's that bearing witness, those 3 tenets again. You show up and you say, I don't know how I'm going to do, you know, it's going to come out of nowhere. That's what gives you, that's what I aspire to anyway, you know, where you're not working, where the actor isn't making you feel this or that. You're just a fly on the wall, and he's just letting it come through him, you know, what the thing is. So to get back to that emptiness, and that's the same task for, of these 3 tenets. You know, it's just funny how those 3 tenets, they work on so many aspects of life. I'd like to recommend Bernie's other books beside the one we wrote, Dude and the Zen Master. He wrote a great book called Bearing Witness, which gets into all this, and also a great book called Instructions for the Cook, which is all about, you know, what life is about, is preparing this wonderful banquet for the world. And you look and you see what's in your refrigerator, what's in your soul and heart and mind that you can share. And that's the deal. You know? Bernie's terrific. He's got great videos on there you might check out too. He's just really solid.
That's great. Okay, well, we're just about got to wrap up now, but can I just throw in one more question? Jeff, what do you think is the importance of conservatives who care about climate change, and what is your message to them to encourage them to get out there?
Well, we're all in this together. I mean, you know, we need all of us. It's not even a matter of being conservative or, you know, liberal or any of that stuff. We just, you know, this is something that goes beyond that. We need all the opinions.
Absolutely.
And then it'll work itself out. You know,
Wow. Well, Jeff, you know that song you said about the welcome mat? You have welcomed us into your home, and we thank you for spending this time with us and giving all of us a feel for what it's a little bit of what it's like to be an actor in all those films. I got to tell you that this maybe shows my taste in movies, but you know, one of my favorites of yours is Seabiscuit.
Oh, I love that.
It's much mentioned, but in the interviews I've seen, not many people seem to ask you about Seabiscuit, but it seems particularly suited for these times, you know. because
Yeah.
the country is under stress. We're under, we've got this problem, and there's this comeback within us, and surely there's a comeback within us with climate, that now that we know what we've done, and maybe if we can sit, as you were describing, and really hear what we've done, and then believe there's a way of redemption out of it, then there's real hope. And that's the sort of the Seabiscuit story of the success,
Yeah.
finally the success after great tragedy and loss,
Yeah, a little horse that was all broken, had no hope of ever winning, and turned out to be the best of the bunch. Yeah.
And your character had the loss, right? And was dealing with that. And I mean, the loss
That's
of
right.
his son.
Yeah,
and all
the
that.
son, yeah. You know what I think you might like, Bob? That match race they have in the movie?
Yeah.
War Admiral and Seabiscuit. I think it's War Admiral.
Yeah, War Admiral, yeah.
Yeah, you can hear that. You can go on iTunes and you can get that race, man. I mean, it's exciting. It puts you right there. It's so exciting.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really cool. That is really neat. Yeah, I just love that film because it's in the genre of like Cinderella and other things where the Cinderella Man, where there's a comeback, and and that's what we at Republican have been talking about that a lot lately, about the comeback. That when you're down, it shows that we're vulnerable and needing,
that's right,
each other, and the hope within us, and then we pull it together, and it's the triumph, that comes. So that's what we're, we're down in climate. We got some problems, but it's possible to come back, and
it sure is. It sure is. That fear we were talking about, who's become kind of my friend, in studying with him with this fear aspect, I've learned over the years that it's just it's thought, man. It's energy. Don't take it so personally. Don't take it so seriously. It's just a thought. Oh yeah, thanks. What do you got? Oh, and I'm talking to him. I'm talking to my fear now. I said, what should I do? My fear said, oh, I don't know. You do whatever you want. You want to pray? You did pray, and sometimes you don't pray. I said, okay. That gives you, that helps a lot. I often pray before I do a scene. And my prayer was usually, take me, God. Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? And I'll look around sometimes, and I'll say, and I'll look at people and the crew, and I'll get an impulse and say, go talk to that person there. They'll have something that will inform the scene. I'll do that. Or it might say, go talk to that fly. See that fly on the wall? God will talk to you in that fly. Oh, we'll listen to the fly. Yeah, what do you got? No. What do you want me to do? Just nothing. Shh, just relax. Oh, thank you. Let it come through us, That's the assignment for me, being an artist in all my endeavors, is get out of the way, man. Let that thing come through you, man.
Yeah.
That's good.
See, that's what it seems to me. We're gonna let you go, but it seems to me that's the amazing gift that actors give to the rest of us, is being willing to do that, to let the scene come through you, and express things that maybe the rest of us aren't willing to express. I once heard President Clinton say that his father used to say, all of us have a story to tell. It's just most of us aren't willing to tell it.
Yeah.
But actors are people who are willing to tell it and to be it for us. Yeah. And so in watching you on screen, we can act out ourselves. We can see something that we maybe aren't willing to do because we're not quite willing to be that vulnerable. But there you go, being that vulnerable.
Well, that's it. That's kind of the gig. It's representing all of us, being all the different ups. Great to play a bad guy. You learn a lot, doing that too. Before we go, I just like one thing that came to mind that It's not in the movie, but it's, you know, I like talking about one of my heroes, Bucky Fuller, who made a great observation of these big ocean tankers. It might have been the Queen Mary or one of these big ocean liners. And he talks about the engineers having a problem moving this huge rudder that's got to turn this big ship. It took too much energy. And then they came up with a brilliant solution. You know, Bucky's already always about do more with less, you know. So this is a great example of that. These engineers came up with something called a trim tab. And a trim tab is a little tiny rudder attached to the big rudder. So the little rudder turns the big rudder turns the ship. And Bucky said, this is a wonderful metaphor for how the individual affects society and culture, that we're all connected like that. And, you know, you're connected with all you guys who are listening to this show. You're making a huge difference. You're trim tabbing, you know, and we all are trim tabs. We're all actors in the big movie going on, man, you know, and to let it be that same assignment, let it come through us, you know, let us be affected by what's going on and let it come through us and participate, you know, engage in steering the boat where you think it ought to go.
Well, that's awesome. What a great note to end on. And, you know, in the chat there, by the way, conservative and concerned about climate change, stand with us at republicen.org. We want to amplify your voice and make sure you're known. But wonderful. I got to tell you, Jeff, in parting that, you know, I've had some chance encounters or casual encounters with folks in Hollywood. And sometimes there are people, maybe it's the attitude they reflect throughout their people. And sometimes it's hard to approach, but I got to tell you, you've got an amazing team. You know, Susan Kutera and DK and Becky are all just amazingly approachable and so friendly to work with. I think it must be coming from the guy that they're working with. So we thank you for channeling all that, because it really is it's fun to talk to you. It's fun to be with them, and you've made a wonderful film with Susan and the whole team, and I hope lots of people watch it and use the curriculum, Living in the Future's Past.
Yeah,
send us out with some. You give another pitch for the film or something, and then
what's that?
Give us another pitch for the film, or your favorite line or something, and say goodnight or something, or afternoon.
Yeah. What can I say? Let's see. Gosh, it's wonderful being in partnership with you, Bob, and all the folks at republicEn. Working together, we can point this boat in the way we want it to go.
Well,
amen.
Let's go then.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
Bon voyage.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jeff Bridges.
Bye-bye.
Thanks to everyone. Have a wonderful day. We'll send out the recording afterwards. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.